Effects of AminoGut and diet formulation approach on growth performance in nursery pigs. Early weaning of pigs is a stressful event that is commonly associated with decreased feed intake and functional and structural changes in intestinal mucosa. This can lead to reduced growth performance and occurrence of intestinal disease. Glutamine and glutamate are the major sources of energy for enterocytes. Nearly all glutamate and 60 to 70% of glutamine are catabolized by the small intestine of weaned pigs. Glutamine and glutamate are considered to be non-essential amino acids, but may be conditionally essential in newly weaned pigs. During the nursing phase, the sow's milk provides glutamine and glutamate to meet the requirements of the intestine. However, after weaning, the transition from milk to feed and the reduced feed intake result in intestinal atrophy as a consequence of insufficient nutrient supply to the intestine. Moreover, plant protein-based diets usually do not provide adequate amounts of glutamine and glutamate for weaned pigs. With that in mind, dietary supplementation of glutamine and glutamate and the use of animal protein-based diets with greater glutamine and glutamate content could be used as a strategy to alleviate the negative effects associated with early weaning. Supplemental glutamine and glutamate in diet has been associated with intestinal integrity and prevention of jejunal atrophy, growth performance and improvement in feed efficiency, and attenuation of oxidative stress. AminoGut is a product of Ajinomoto, which contains both glutamine and glutamate in its composition. Therefore, the objective of this study was to determine the effects of dietary supplementation of glutamine and glutamate provided as AminoGut and protein source in nursery pigs from 5 to 27 kilograms. A total of 1,134 nursery pigs with initial body weight of 5.3 kilograms were used in a 52-day trial. 7 pens per treatment and 27 pigs per pen were used in this study. Pens were assigned to treatments in a randomized complete block design based on initial body weight. From day 0 to 24, corresponding to phases 1 and 2 of nursery, pigs were on treatment diets. And from day 24 to 52, corresponding to phase 3, pigs were fed a common diet. Dietary treatments were arranged as a 2x3 factorial design, with 2 protein sources, either plant protein or animal protein-based diet, and 3 feeding durations of glutamine and glutamate, either for 0, 10, or 24 days. AminoGut was the source of glutamine and glutamate, and it was included in diet at 0.8% from day 0 to 10 and at 0.6% from day 10 to 24. This was the diet composition. It was a corn soybean meal based diet with low levels of DDGs inclusion. Highlighted in orange is the inclusion of animal protein, as bovine blood plasma in phase 1 and fish meal in phase 1 and 2 only in animal protein-based diet. Highlighted in purple is the inclusion of HP300 in phase 1 and in phase 2 only in plant protein-based diet. The common phase was corn, soybean meal, and DDGs based, and there was no inclusion of bovine blood plasma, fish meal, or HP300. AminoGut was included in diet at 0.8% in phase 1, 0.6% in phase 2, at the expense of corn, and it was not included in the common phase. Diet was formulated to meet or exceed amino acids, calcium, and phosphorus requirements. As idealizing level was included at 1.4 in phase 1, 1.34 in phase 2, and 1.27 in the common phase. Data were analyzed using a linear mixed model. Treatment was included as fixed effect, and block was included as random effect. The interaction between glutamine and glutamate and protein source was considered in the model. Linear and quadratic contrasts were built to evaluate the response of feeding glutamine and glutamate for different durations. Models were fitted using the Glimix procedure in ASAS, and results were considered significant at p equal to or smaller than 0.05 and marginally significant at p equal to or smaller than 0.10. Moving on to the results, the graphs are set up as glutamine and glutamate feeding duration on the first row of the x-axis, either as 0, 10, or 24 days, and protein source on the second row of the x-axis, either as plant protein-based diet, represented by purple bars, or animal protein-based diet, represented by orange bars. The response variable is on the y-axis. SEM and p-values are presented in the upper left corner. It is important to notice that no interaction between glutamine and glutamate and protein source was observed in this trial. From days 0 to 10, pigs fed animal protein-based diet had marginally improved average daily gain compared to pigs fed plant protein-based diet. However, no differences was observed among pigs fed glutamine and glutamate in this phase. From days 0 to 10, pigs from 10 and 24 days of glutamine and glutamate feeding duration were actually fed the same diet. Average daily feed intake was not affected by protein source and glutamine and glutamate. Pigs fed animal protein-based diet had improved feed efficiency compared to pigs fed plant protein-based diet. However, no differences were observed among pigs fed glutamine and glutamate in this phase. From day 10 to 24, pigs fed glutamine and glutamate had improved average daily gain with increasing feeding duration. But average daily gain was not affected by protein source. Average daily feed intake was not affected by glutamine and glutamate or protein source. Pigs fed glutamine and glutamate had improved feed efficiency with increasing feeding duration. But feed efficiency was not affected by protein source. For the combined performance of phase 1 and 2, from day 0 to 24, pigs fed glutamine and glutamate had improved average daily gain with increasing feeding duration. Average daily gain was improved by 10 to 12 grams when glutamine and glutamate were included in diet. Average daily gain was not affected by protein source. Average daily feed intake was not affected by glutamine and glutamate or protein source. Pigs fed glutamine and glutamate had improved feed efficiency with increasing feeding duration. Feed efficiency was improved by 3 to 5% when glutamine and glutamate were included in diet. But feed efficiency was not affected by protein source. As a result, feeding glutamine and glutamate resulted in 0.3 to 0.4 increase in body weight on day 24, which corresponds to 3/4 of a pound heavier pig at the end of phase 2 of nursery. For the common phase from day 24 to 52, average daily gain was not affected by previously feeding glutamine and glutamate or different protein sources. Also, average daily feed intake was not affected by previously feeding glutamine and glutamate or by different protein sources. However, there was a marginal quadratic response in feed efficiency in pigs fed glutamine and glutamate. Pigs that had been previously fed glutamine and glutamate for 10 days had marginally improved feed efficiency compared to pigs that had been previously fed glutamine and glutamate for 24 days. But feed efficiency was not affected by protein source. For the overall nursery performance from day 0 to 52, average daily gain was not affected by feeding glutamine and glutamate or different protein sources. Average daily gain was on average 406 grams during the nursery phase. Also, average daily feed intake was not affected by feeding glutamine and glutamate or different protein sources. The average daily gain was on average daily feed intake, was on average 606 grams during the nursery phase. Also, no evidence for differences in feed efficiency. Feed efficiency was on average 0.670 during the nursery phase. As a result, no evidence for differences in final body weight. However, the advantage in body weight observed on day 24 in pigs fed glutamine and glutamate was maintained until day 52. In conclusion, feeding glutamine and glutamate provided as AminoGut improved growth performance until day 24. However, there were no carryover effects when a common diet was fed. Protein source in the diet did not influence the response to glutamine and glutamate. An animal protein-based diet marginally improved growth performance until day 10. Thank you.